What's up everybody, Jesse here, and before we get started, I've noticed a lot of you have been saying that some of my videos haven't been popping up in your subscription feed. So what I recommend is after you subscribe, click this little bell here, and this little message will pop up, and all you have to do is click it and save. I recommend doing this so you don't miss out on some of my collaborations or Nintendo and Zelda news, theory, and rumor videos. Also, don't forget to thumb up this video, and remember to put your thoughts in the comments below. Alright, so here with me is Rick, and we are going to discuss the Nintendo Switch and what we think Nintendo's plans for the presentation is going to be. How do we think they're going to be showing it off, and what do we think Nintendo is going to be showing off with it in terms of features that it's going to have, maybe get into a little bit of the launch lineup, and later possibly some of the bundles and prices that the Switch could have. So to start off, how do you see them beginning it? Do you think it's Miyamoto or someone else presenting the Nintendo Switch? Is it going to be sort of a more comedic presentation like we've been seeing from them? Or do you think it's going to be like a sizzle trailer showing off some of the stuff before they actually start getting into the details?
That's a really good question. I think it might be. It's a toss-up between a sizzle trailer, kind of showing off, more of the games that are coming out for it and all that type of stuff. Maybe even the features, or it's going to be a comedic reel like they've done in the past, just to set the tone for everything that they're going to talk about during the presentation. Probably, I could see, like Reggie definitely being in something like that. Miyamoto, probably, if they're going to do a sizzle reel or something, he'll probably come out on stage and it will have to do with Mario. But, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think what they're going to do is they're going to come out and give sort of a speech on how they're going to be transitioning from the old Nintendo, which is like the Wii U, and what they're planning on doing moving forward with the Nintendo Switch. And I think they want to really show off how this is going to be a unique experience, to whereas it's like basically the reverse of the Wii U. Instead of having the console that streams to the gamepad, you now have basically the gamepad that can be plugged in to an actual console. So I think they want to sort of get the point across. So I think they'll maybe have another trailer similar to the one that they've already showed off, and then after that it'll be them on stage or on the video actually explaining how it works, what exactly the dock is going to do, the hookups that it's going to have, and what it is spec-wise. And then after they talk about all of the tech-savvy stuff that the Switch has, like the GPU, the CPU, RAM, or whatever, I think then they'll start showing off some of the games that they have for it. But that's what I want to sort of talk about with you, is dig a bit into some of the tech stuff, which is things like battery life or the graphical power that this may have, because a lot of people expected it to be around 720p, and then once you dock it, if possible, it would upscale the game to 1080p to be played on the TV. But a lot of people have been thinking lately that what if it's just 720p? Like, it's 720p on the handheld itself, and then when you dock it, the game just stays at 720p with no resolution upscaling.
I think that would be a really bad move on their part. I mean, it would be going downhill.
Yeah.
I mean,
because,
you're going backwards there.
Yeah, like the way that I think of it is like, the PS4 Pro is coming out, and then at the end of, or actually I think the PS4 Pro's already out, isn't it? I don't know. It's coming out around this time.
Yeah,
of
I think so.
Recording, anyways. And the Xbox Scorpio, which is a full 4K gaming machine, also comes out next year when the Nintendo Switch is going to be coming out. So for them to just be focusing on 720p and just now hitting decent 1080p graphics on games that PlayStation and Xbox are going to be running in 4K, even though they have this new exciting console, they're still like that step behind. So I'm not really sure what their plan is, but they have to do something to like wow everyone.
Most definitely. I think it's more likely that it will upscale to 1080p. I'd really hate to see it be just 720p. I mean, that would just that wouldn't do them any justice there. But if they can get this console to run most of if not all of their games at 720p 60 frames per second, and then 1080p 60 frames per second for certain titles, and maybe 30 frames for more graphically intensive ones, maybe like Breath of the Wild because it's so big, 30 frames. I think that would compete with Sony and Microsoft, only because of the fact that Sony and Microsoft can't even get their games to play 1080p 60 frames per second solid. So I'm sure the PlayStation Pro and Xbox Scorpio. See, I'm not an Xbox fan. They most likely will be playing at 4K but at 30 frames per second. I find it hard to believe that they can put that much more power into these two consoles, but I don't know. I haven't looked at the specs for it, so I can't really talk in that department. But if they are only at 30 frames per second, it's still going to leave that kind of empty feeling that you get when you use a console to play high-res games. You'd rather go to a PC where you can get a solid 60 frames per second. So, I mean, Nintendo, if they go to the 720p route, it's all bad. But if they go the 1080p route, I'll be happy with that, and I think that's the route they're going to go down.
All right, so one of the main things about this is they've been promoting this as their next home console that also has a handheld side, as opposed to a handheld machine that also doubles as a home console. And this has made a lot of Nintendo fans think that the reason that they're doing this is because of the battery life in this. Whereas if they promote it as a new handheld system, then people will expect that battery life that you would, come to expect from, say, like a Game Boy or a Nintendo 3DS, to where they traditionally have very good battery life. So if this thing only has, say, like 2 hours, maybe 3 hours if you play with like the sound turned down and the screen dimmed and everything, then maybe you can push 3 hours of gameplay out of this. To whereas, say the 3DS, you can play on it for a couple of hours, put it on standby, and then pick it up a few hours later, and you still have a few more hours left before it completely goes dead. Or at least that's my experience on it. I'm sure different games drain the battery at different variations, but the fact that this is first and foremost a home console, as I said, makes some fans worried that this is going to have poor battery life. How do you see them solving this issue? Do you think that is the reason they're promoting it this way, or do you expect it to have a decent battery life? Because even with just the Wii U gamepad, a lot of people complain that the battery life on it isn't that great, and it doesn't really have any of the processing power in it itself, whereas the Switch is going to have the CPU, GPU combo, the RAM, the screen, and everything powered inside of it.
Well, I don't think that they marketed it this way specifically because of the fact that it has a poor battery life or anything like that. I think they marketed it this way, especially in the US and stuff like that. They marketed it this way because we want a mobile experience, but the easiest way to explain that to people is to just call it a home console. Most of the U.S. market, in my eyes, isn't ready for a on-the-go, at-home console. It would have just confused people if they would have called it a mobile, handheld, hybrid home console. So, but over in like Japan, they totally understand it as a mobile console. I haven't watched any of the ads for the Japanese trailer for it or whatever, but and I'm sure they market it in the same way, but they're more of a mobile market compared to us here, where we have it kind of split up both ways. As for the battery life, I think that from what I've been hearing, I do think that it's going to be about 3 hours, which in some people's eyes, that's not long enough. But think about it. When you're on the go, at least for me, I'm 24 and I don't have a lot of time to be playing video games on the go. So even if I'm going from point A to point B, the most time that I'm in a car is like 2 hours. Now for people, that are taking long flights and stuff like that, you're going to have problems there, but there's chargers in the planes and stuff like that. I'm sure there's power ports, and same thing with trains, same thing with anything like that. So I'm not really too concerned with the battery life on that. Even my 3DS, like, even when I do take it with me, it never really dies all the way. And normally I'm at home playing it, and I can just plug it into the wall. So for me, it's not a big deal, but for a lot of other people, 3 hours of battery life isn't enough. But when you look at iPads or anything like that, their battery life isn't too much better. I'm not too sure how long an iPad lasts, but I'm sure it's like 5 hours, 6 hours maybe.
Yeah. Like 3 hours for me just seems like the average, that if it's more than that, then they're going to be good. But if it's less, then that's when people may be getting concerned.
Yeah.
But like you bring up a good point, is like the only time you would really need more than 3 hours is if you're going on a long trip, because even if it does last, say on average, for 3 hours, and your commute to work or wherever you're going is 30 minutes to an hour, that gives you an hour of playtime there, and then an hour of playtime back, and then maybe while you're on break at work or something, if you want to game, then you still have an hour left. So it seems that 3 hours is that sweet spot that they need to hit. That way people don't have to worry about it dying while they're in the middle of playing or something. But at the same time, like backup batteries or battery packs to take on the go have never been more popular. Even with when Pokemon Go came out, everyone started buying them just for their cell phones.
Exactly.
So most people, Nintendo gamers that or at least the casual audience that Nintendo's trying to market to, would have a backup battery to charge it in case of like some gaming emergency, like if you're in the middle of a dungeon and you haven't saved yet. But
yeah, and
like if the battery is like an hour and a half to 2 hours, then I can see people getting worried. But as long as it's around 3 hours, I see no one really having an issue with it, especially considering the more powerful this console is going to be, the less power or hours of gameplay you're going to have. To whereas, if it was as powerful as, say, the Nintendo Wii, you'd probably have 6 to 7 hours easy. But if it is equal to, say, the Wii U, which we know it is, then that 6 hours quickly becomes around 3 hours. Because, like, I know on gaming laptops specifically, like, which they have, humongous batteries that weigh half as much as the laptop does. And they, like, if you're playing a game on high settings in HD, then, that battery is going to be drained in just a few hours.
And one other thing that I want to note is that Nintendo is notorious for making accessories for their consoles, and this is, I mean, compared to either of the other two companies, Sony and Microsoft just don't compare in accessories for their consoles. Nintendo's always done well selling their accessories too. I mean, the Wii went a little bit too crazy with it. The 3DS didn't really have as many.
Yeah, the only one that I seen as like a must-have if you needed to buy an accessory was the like the dock that added the second thumbstick or whatever.
Yeah.
Control pad.
Yeah, and most people, you know, a lot of people upgraded to the new 3DS as well, so they don't even need that anymore. Or they could, I don't know if you can still use it or not, but and the DS had a lot of accessories, the Game Boy had a lot of accessories, and that was one I think you could even buy battery packs for way back when, or get rechargeable batteries or do whatever. And I see them probably, if they don't let you charge it USB, like you were saying, like a lot of people went out and bought battery packs with Pokemon Go. If they don't allow people to charge it that way, I see them coming out with an external battery pack that you can buy to give you a couple more hours. And they've already come out and said that this thing, or it's rumored that this thing is going to have a ton of accessories. So
yeah, and another thing with battery is with the detachable controllers being well detachable and still working with it, they have to have their own battery as well. So you know, if most of what's inside of these what were they called,
Joy-Cons,
yeah, if like half of the Joy-Con is filled up inside with their own battery, then that in itself, like if you charge those and the main battery inside of your actual console dies, maybe using both of the Joy-Con batteries together with the Nintendo Switch attached to it will give you, say, 15 or 30 more minutes of gameplay. Because even that would be something. And then like a lot of third-party developers always come out with their own controllers and stuff. So if one, like, say, Nyko, I think they make the larger Wii U battery that you can put in your gamepad. Like if they came out with their own that has, say, double the capacity, to where now if you're using theirs, even though it's off-brand, it would add an extra hour of gameplay or something.
Yeah, that would be really cool. And we've even seen with the Joy-Con controllers, for a fact they have their own battery power.
Yeah, it shows the level
the
on
lights.
the controller.
Yeah, so whether or not those actually charge while it's plugged into the pad, or if they are just, you know, using their own residual battery life, we still don't know.
I'm interested to know if when you snap them on to the console or whatever you do, if they actually connect to it to where like the signal's actually transferring to the system itself, or if it's all still wireless, like if it's still sending the wireless signal to it.
That's actually really interesting. I didn't think about that. It probably, I mean, if it's, I don't see the sense in wasting money on an actual like connection port there for those to connect if it's already wireless.
Yeah.
So that could be a factor.
Yeah, but going back to what you were saying with the different add-on accessories and stuff, what else were you thinking of with that? Because I'm thinking about just changing this from our thoughts on the presentation to just our concerns with the Nintendo Switch.
Okay. Shoot, for more accessories, I would say I could see, you know, I think we were talking about this on the last discussion, but I'll bring it up anyways. We were talking about being able to upgrade the tablet or even the dock later on. I could see that happening. I could see there's been memes and stuff like that, or pictures of just people that have gone in and photoshopped the controllers for the Switch and made them look like the N64 controller, the GameCube controller. I think those are a definite possibility to try to give a variety to the Joy-Cons. and make them more memorable, almost like the Wiimote, but not in the same way. So I could see that happening. The battery packs, I guarantee there's going to be a case for this thing. Screen protectors, maybe.
Yeah.
Especially if it's not multi-touch, but I'm hearing it is.
Yeah, here's something that I've been thinking about. We have never seen what the backside or any of the ports on the Nintendo Switch, the docking station.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think there's a chance, because a lot of people are assuming that if they want to bring basically any of the games from the Wii's library, or even some of the Wii U games over, they need to have some sort of motion controls. So a lot of people are thinking that the Joy-Cons have built-in motion controls like the Wiimote. And if it has Wii Motion Plus in it, then you don't necessarily need the IR sensor, but some of the games, like if they bring the remakes or the Wii versions of, say, Metroid Prime over, or even the Super Mario Galaxy games, do you think that there's a chance the docking station has a plug-in for a sensor bar?
It's a possibility. The only thing that I see there is that Nintendo's wanted to get far away from the Wii branding. But other than that, I mean, I could see it happening only because they're showing that they want to support their older titles and bring them over to this console too, all that type of stuff.
Yeah, because for me, it's like, if it doesn't, then a lot of the Wii games that people liked are just going to die out unless you plug in your Wii or your Wii U, because like Nintendo has put a lot of focus on their virtual console titles. So if they want to bring in, Wii games or some Wii U games as virtual consoles, they can either fully remake them, as we presume they're doing with like the Mario Kart 8 Enhanced Edition or the Enhanced Splatoon game, to where they're not necessarily remaking them, but remaking them to just work with the controls that you're limited to on the Nintendo Switch, where you don't have the 2-screen functionality or anything like that. So if they want to bring over those Wii games as part of their virtual console, which like a lot of those depend on motion controls, like Wii Sports or even a game like Skyward Sword, unless they completely remapped the controls.
And that was something that I was actually going to point out is you were talking about how the Joy-Cons could actually use motion control there. I'm looking at a Joy-Con right now, and from the way it's set up, the Wiimote, right? They'd have to remap the controls for the Joy-Con itself, which I don't think would be that hard, but I'm not seeing as many buttons on one Joy-Con as it would be on a Wiimote. Because you have the whole D-pad, and then you have A and B. I mean, I guess, yeah, it does have enough, but it would be kind of awkward in a way.
What's up, everyone? This is Jesse, and welcome to the Inslate. I would like to thank you for watching this video. If you're a fan of my Zelda or gaming news, theory, or discussion videos like this, please consider supporting this channel by donating through patreon.com/GameOverJesse, where you can get new videos early, be able to join on discussion or theory videos, get shoutouts, and tons of other great rewards. Thank you all so much for allowing me to do this, watching my videos, and especially you, Alex Myers, Jonathan, The Itch Network, Magic Tech Review, Mike Priest, and John Frank, for your support on Patreon.